Oh, this is Rev Training 啊。
Rev
DPS all DPS。
哎呀，
咁我就係用裝備都可以睇嘅。咁我係用 PPF 啦。
Okay, so you're berserker all the way, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and the runes, what are the runes used?
Scholar。
Okay.
OK。
我 damn low res 了。
好 PP。好。
Weapon. Hey, wait, your guys let him train Ken while you're attacking. Huh?
Kind
We are training now. Yeah.
They're killing each other now.
咁好多時公會嘅人就好多時唔會開呢個3個技能啦，6號技啦，同埋呢個啦。
So okay.
就疊嗰個 buff。
So you always have to have those 3 faces on because it gives buff to people around you in your party. Okay?
Yeah. 咁我見公會就玩 Revenant 嘅都唔會開呢3個嘅，咁佢就要無論鋪梯打之前打都要開啦，即係呢個必須嘅。咁呢個就要佢哋注意嘅。
Hey, stop hitting Jason.
Hey guys, come on 啊！
咁同埋咁佢鋪梯會 call 即係 range bone 啦，咁我就會睇佢時間，佢會3、2、1。
3、2、1。
咁我就會
3、2、1。
嘢，咁我就會首先會放2號技，再大概3號技，咁佢讀秒，因為呢2個加埋會好痛噶嘛，即係你佢會拉人過嚟嗰時 pull
So this is range lah, for range lah.
Yeah.
So for when Pote call out range, his attack is 2 and 3. Okay.
Hammer.
Yeah, it's hammer. So your like what he said in the beginning, your 3 items must on before the fight is the fractured of strength, elements and darkness. These 3 must be on if you are under this not dwarf stance, the dragon stance, right? And then when Pote asks for range attack, you press your number 2 and your number 3 skill.
Okay.
Okay.
呢3個技能你拎出嚟啦，俾你哋睇下。
啲技能聽唔到。
Wait, let me give you。
係啊，你將你頭先講嗰啲6、7、8同埋2、3咧，你擺喺嗰個 guild 嗰度。
即係呢3個。唔係2、3。咁因為其實咧即係我哋公會嘅 Revenant 最大問題就係易死啦。咁其實主要就係睇對面嘅動向，因為我講完技能未必有用。其實即係睇佢哋動向，因為好多時我哋公會嘅人打對面個團好似發緊夢咁佢就要睇佢動向啦。即係個動向，例如佢哋會用一個隱形走過嚟，其實係有跡可尋嘅。咁佢個即係因為佢通常佢隱形過嚟之前咧，即係好似不過依家冇隱形，治唔到俾佢。佢哋隱形前就會放技能，因為有個紅圈出嚟，但係有紅圈出嚟之前，其實係冇傷害嘅。咁佢嗰一下其實我哋要閃啦，所以就要靠你自己個判斷。明唔明白？
Okay. So what Jason is saying, you got to have initiative that when enemy push you, you have to dodge away first. like you have to stay alive lah, am I?
Yeah. Especially when they set stealth, then when they stealth, you can see the red circle that he mentioned.
Yeah.
So when you see the red circle, you need to dodge away right away, so you don't die.
Yeah.
Mm.
So make sure you are alert when you can tell when the enemies are pushing as well, especially when they are stealth. When they are stealth, we normally don't engage because we don't know where they go. So we'll normally pull back. So that y'all got to be prepared to move once the enemy is stealth. Do not fall behind because you'll be dead.
嗯，
Okay, and then after that what? 嗰
即
Jason
係好
say
似咁菩提會打會對撞啦，即係兩個大團撞啦。咁我首先都會轉呢個狀態，即係
when we engage 啦。
即係石人，即係另一個狀態啦，即係唔係呢個啦，我轉錯
He will
咗。
change to dwarf.
When we engage the enemy, right?
轉呢個係就
嗯
大概都會放喺即係放
Or road.
yeah，就放喺個大團前
啊
面啦，即係俾 potato，因為
step
佢係持續俾噶嘛，即係個 step。
嗯
咁就會跟住放呢個呢個，
the spin
因為呢個就會放傷害，跟住我再會轉雙數武器啦，就呢兩個啦，咁就會可以打比較多嘅傷害。
okay
嗯，
so okay let me get this clear directly 啊，仲有冇啊？
咁打完一套之後，我就會轉翻呢個疊 buff。
啊哈
因為佢嗰個 buff 會俾人哋燒咗啦。咁你大概講解咗俾佢哋聽先。
okay
大概注意嘅又係呢。
Sure, you understand? Then okay.
yeah
You can explain. lah.
you explain now you explain.
No, you go ahead.
So when we engage enemies that time, right? He will change to the dwarf. Then he will use road when we engage the enemy, and then use the spin, the hammer, the virtual hammer, right?
Vengeful hammer.
Vengeful hammer, right? And then after that he will use the right of the great dwarf, right?
Yes.
And then he will change back to the other skill, and then you switch back your 3 skills again, your 3 buff.
The weapon, right? He will change the weapon.
Utility.
You
to
did
hand, yeah.
the
Utility. That's
legendary
legendary dwarf. Yes. Then the
stance.
6,
Dragon
8, 9.
stance.
Yeah.
Yeah, yours. Yeah, 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9 switch on. Your 7, 8, 9 when you're on your dragon stance must be on.
My youth narrating hamster races.
It should be on your 7, 8, 9. It is gives yourself and your team buff.
It gives you boon basically. So if you read right, your heal gives your allies regen, and then there's one break stun. Your only break stun, you don't turn on that first. You turn on the facet of strength and the facet of elements for swiftness and might. So these are the 3 basic things. If you can, you can also activate your facet of nature if your fingers are fast enough. But basically, we need these 3 turn on. Okay? But for myself, I pair these 2 together. If you already use your facet of element and strength, you always keep these 2 together, because if you are in the tight pinch, you break stun and you immediately click on the heal. You will go back to full health when they attack you. Okay? After when you clash, you turn into your dwarf, and then you will go to put on roads and vengeful hammer. Vengeful hammer gives you reduced damage from enemies as well. So you will use that, be it that you're using your melee weapon or your ranged weapon, just use the hammer and then go to Pote, stick onto Pote, whatever he does, okay? And then from there, you can also notice that Facet of Nature also gives you damage reduction, 5%. 5% to me is quite a lot, and I use that a lot as well. Because for you guys, when I don't usually do damage, I use Dwarf's Ultimate, which gives a lot of damage reduction, okay?
Mm.
So this one depends on how you do it, because once you finish your legendary stance, you finish all the cooldowns, right? Switch back to the legendary, another legendary, as in switch to another legendary and then use it again. Because our cooldowns are very, very fast, we can always reuse what we put in. Always remember to use your facelet, but also remember that it uses a lot of energy. So don't use more than 4 facelet at once. Only use 3. Because if you use more than 4, you wouldn't have any energy left for the basic weapon skills. Okay? Movement is very important. When Pote calls for range damage, remember your hammer. It takes about 3 seconds for you to finish the entire sequence. You fly out, you hit, you come back. If Pote is on the move and you do that, you're going to come back to nobody. Nobody's going to welcome you back. You're going to die fuck. So you have to remember that if you do your range damage, if you want to risk yourself with a face smash, have this on. So at least when you face smash, okay, you finish down maybe, and then when you're stuck in a tight situation, you break stun and heal. Okay? And then after that, if you really done shit, you quickly change to your dwarf, and then you use this. This is the break stun. This is the big ass break stun with damage reduction 50%. I always use that to get out of a pinch. Once you swap, you immediately use that break stun if you're in trouble. Then you move first. Instead of doing damage, move first. Move to Pote, position yourself better because a dead person does 0 DPS. Okay? So for hammer, basically you only use 2 and 3. This is pretty good. And then 4 is like a block reflect for range damage. 5, of course, is a a stun. So usually what I do is I fly out 3 and then I quickly click on 5. The hammer will come straight out. Okay? So when you're flying, that action, it also starts the animation of the drop hammer. Okay? Same goes for other skills, for example, like this thing. Facelet of Element, once you fly out, you cannot use max damage. I tested it out. Maybe it's my lag or some shit. But if it's around 900 range, you can actually fly out and then you drop the facelet far away. Not far away, but it's about 600-700 range. So this one can all be used together. Remember when you fly, you can actually use some of your skills. This one you can test it yourself. I usually use Facelet of Elements. And then after that, I basically use all my cooldowns. I use my 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 whenever is needed. And of course, this is super speed. Your ultimate for dragon. Other than that, we use both one hand sword. So this is our main damage right here. Number 2. And number 4 is your emote. Number 5 is blink. Use it situational. Number 3 though, this one is very dangerous. I always use this and most of the time, not most, half of the time I get fucked because it jumps around different people. When I use this, I will combo it usually with the spinning Vengeful Hammers because that does a lot of fucking damage. But if you are unlucky and your last hit lands in a unfavorable spot, you might die. So you just have to weigh in the pros and cons.
Thanks, very good.
When do you switch to sword then?
So once I finish my face smash and the range damage, right? When Pote say we go into hit, right?
Yeah.
If I think the area is quite small and then we will do a melee hit, right? I will change to sword because it's very painful. If I think we are gonna kite them or we're gonna do a little bit of pirate ship, right? And then there's a difference of height. That means we have to hit them from up above or hit them down below, right? Then I'll remain at hammer. I'll just keep using the spinning hammers to mitigate damage, and then of course always change your legendary stances. So if you're doing a melee hit or Pote wants to rush through something, it's very good for you to change to 2 and sword. Normally I press 2 and 4 so that I hit once and then I emote them also. It's quite painful. And if you're in a pinch, right, or you are too far back from Pote, you just target any enemy that's around him. If you can left click or nearest target or whatever, and then you press 5, you should be able to blink closer to him. Or even ambient creatures or some random yellow creatures, like those animals up there. That's basically it, Revenant.
Jason want to say something?
一個問題就係呢招技能就打大團就千祈唔好用咯。
Yeah, correct.
因為 佢唔知佢會轉咗去邊度，
啊
即係因為呢招技能係會咁樣，因為佢
嗯
係隨機啊嘛，因為佢個人唔會離開咗鋪梯好遠，所以呢招係打大團嘅時候唔可以用，只可以打單人咯，即係人哋落單。
，solo 啦，one person 啦，
Yes。
嗯，
The translation is for sword 3, right? Usually when in big Zerg fights, right, we don't use that because the area I told you just now, like the last hit is unpredictable. It is like Cloud's Omi slash. You will fly the fuck you don't know where. So when you land a bad position, you're dead. So in big Zerg fights, like first, second, or third clashes, you don't use sword 3 at all. Unless in a few situations we can use it, is that victory is almost secured. It's like we are clearing them out already. Just use it. It's okay. Or if we are in a small tight place that you know you can't fly too far, you can use it. Or if we are in a smaller group fight, if it's like a 40 versus 40, try not to use it. Because once you land in a place that is unfavorable, you will probably die. Because it bounces around different people.
What about staff for defensive?
Staff, we don't usually use that because we don't have the range hammer. We need the range hammer damage, 2 and 3. Staff
Oh.
is more for like defensive roaming. Last time used to be good for roaming
Yeah.
because it has a
Renegade
buff and it has a block. But we
Renegade,
use
right?
no, it's the same thing.
Oh.
Yep.
It's just a
Okay.
different weapon.
Okay, got it.
Facelet of Chaos situational.
But stuff 傷害太低會冇用，以前就會嘗試用，但係依家嗰個即係 Revenant 嘅傷害，因為減弱咗，你如果轉做 staff 會個傷害會更加少，所以係唔會用。
The damage on staff is not as high. So it's better to use hammer and then a double sword.
Sheep asked what?
Answering the question, the chaos, it is, I only use it for super speed, honestly. Or when somebody is finishing my teammate and I wanna just CC him to like push him back, I use it.
Can we use it when we engage them or they're pushing us?
We can. I use it when Pote call for stealth or even veil. So that is our super speed. So I will turn that thing on alone. Or maybe with like just my heal and this thing. Because the ultimate costs a bit more. Actually not a bit more, a lot more. It's -4. You look at the other skills, it's all -2, -2, and -1. But the ultimate is quite resource heavy. So you don't use it with too much of the other facelets. So usually because of like if I need movement, I will use this and this, just these two. Swiftness and then that chaos. And then once we engage, I'll quickly click on the other buttons and use it. Situational when we need super speed. Also very important, super speed is only useful when we are in combat. If we're out of combat, it means jack shit. We are moving in the same speed. Okay, only when you're stuck in combat, you get like the movement speed difference from super speed. Okay. Generally for Revenant is your positioning and your weapon skills. Normally I use what I call the thumb keyboard roll. So I just, because all my keys are like Z, X, C, V for my heal and the 6, 7, 8, 9. So your 6, 7, 8, 9, you just fucking in the in fight, you just roll everything. Roll everything, change stance, and then put down your road.
其實好似 Revenant 望落去簡單，但係主要，因為佢係冇命嘅技能，只可以靠即係呢招係當係無敵咁用。
Correct. This is your lifesaver.
所以 最大問題就係要備技能啦。咁正如我頭先所講嘅，即係你要睇對面個動向，你唔可以只可以靠普梯帶團點樣打，你要望翻普梯同埋對面佢點樣嚟，佢點樣去 cut 我哋嘅團尾巴，所以即係你唔係話只要靠個技能去幫你，你要睇翻對面點樣去打我哋嘅團，因為其實每一個團都有個即係嗰個方向，咁佢哋嘅方向大概都係隱形啦，隱形推過嚟啦，咁我哋就要睇翻，如果佢推過嚟之後，咁我哋要用咩動作，步梯大概要咩動作，你要估，你唔可以只可以靠步梯點樣去打。咁呢樣嘢我講冇乜用啦，即係要靠佢哋要知道點樣去打呢個大團咯。咁例如我哋打釘，咁一定係簡單啦，但係如果打
that one no need translation. Okay, somebody translate for him.
Well, basically what he's saying is like you can't just hear what Pote say. You have to, because this class is easy to die, so that's why you need to predict what the whole like your movement, what Pote is gonna do next, so you can survive. It's really on experience also. So you don't just listen to Pote, but you need to think ahead.
But 18,000 is better than the DH, right? DH is only 11. It's even worse.
It all depends. They have different skills and
Yeah, that's true. Good
needs
point.
and everything. Because you look at DH, they have Aegis, they have step if you need. But for Rev, we do have step also, but it's just roads.
Yeah.
It's just roads and
no heals.
All pros and
No
cons. I would say DH long range they hit quicker because the symbols they are almost immediate. But for Revenant, you see our number 2 and our fly.
Yeah.
Our fly in you can avoid because when we fly in, you can see the red circle. If you are an opponent, you will be able to see the red circle, but the hit only comes in after 2 seconds.
Yep.
Because we need like the flight time.
Yep.
So it's best when Pote calls for range spike and he pulls, right? You look at the purple line for that veil, and then when he calls 3, 2, 1, I usually fly out at 1.5. Before he calls 1, I fly out already. This timing you have to like understand it yourself. Sometimes I reverse and use 3 and 2 also because of the quick calls that Pote do. Because if it needs damage really, really quickly, I can't do 2 and then 3. I'm not gonna make it Normally I would just fly out first and then see where I'm gonna hit with 2 later.
Okay.
But
Any question? Or Jason got anything to add? We can translate.
咁樣多數因為普地 call P21 嘛，咁因為有啲人會亂用3號啦、2號啦。
邊個嚟㗎？咁撚靚仔把聲！
我屌你啦！
Okay,
Fuck
continue.
you. Okay.
Continue first.
屌你啊！
It's recorded. I continue first.
因為如果咁佢哋因為 Pote call B21，咁有時啲人就會慢咗或者早咗。咁如果慢咗嘅話，Pote已經走咗去啦，你仲喺度打緊嘅話，咁你咪會俾對面嘅團捉住咗咯。咁其實如果 Pote call B2，其實差唔多你都要放噶，因為佢嗰個跳過去差唔多要1秒半。所以其實即係佢哋要知翻嗰個 B2，咁個2號技就唔係3號技就要放出嚟啦。 就唔好等佢 P2-1 先開始放，咁佢哋就會慢咗飛過去，鋪梯已經走咗去啦，咁會俾人哋捉住咗佢咯。
Correct. So it's basically what I said just now. So when Pote calls for 3, 2, 1, by 1, you can already fly out with your 3. I recommend we use 3 first. Because if you time the 2 and 3, it's going to be very difficult. We fly out first, hit, come back, then we use 2. How do you guys think about this?
But it's 3, 2, 1 is to move, right?
No, 3, 2, 1 for pull. For the veil pull. You look at the purple line.
Yeah. Got it.
Pote will be like pulling on my marker,
Pulling on my
3,
marker,
2, 1. Yeah. So if you launch it at 1 or even slightly after 1, right,
You're
it will
too
be
late.
late. You're late,
Yeah.
yeah. And then when you come back, as Jason said, you'll be caught by the enemy already. You get pulled and then or Pote has moved away already. So usually for me, in between 2 and 1, I will already fly out.
Yeah. Got it. Makes sense.
So when you fly out and then when you come back, then we release the 2. Okay, since this skill has been nerfed a little bit or so I think phase smash is more important. When you go out with the phase smash, right, you can actually, if you didn't blast beforehand, you can actually drop the hammer as well. So when you fly out, you can drop the hammer, you keep clicking on 5, and your hammer will come out. You don't have like the cast animation. It's almost cut in like 30%. The animation cut 30%.
咁咧，仲有一個問題就係、多數有時鋪梯鋪對面都會鋪，咁你用完3號技，就要立刻向後 touch， 咁樣就唔會俾佢哋捉到。因為好多時佢哋放完3號就定咗喺度，唔知做乜。
Correct.
就多數一係你向後閃或者向前閃，你要睇翻鋪梯要去邊度，就要向邊閃。
Correct. So when you release your range bomb, right, you have to look at where Pote is positioned and where you anticipate Pote will be next. Because after your phase smash, when you fly back, you have to try to dodge once if you are too near. But if it's like a very max range, 1.2k, it's okay, you can get away with it. But if it's quite near, because Pote's pull range, remember, is 900 only. So usually you'll be only like hitting 900. Once you hit, the opponent look at the Revenant fly over, as in they also understand that the Revenant is gonna go back, land at the same spot. That is a cue for them to pull. Last time when I'm a Mesmer, right, I used to look at all this, I blink in, and then I now feel and pull them. I don't care if I die, but I want their range damage to die. Okay? So far I haven't seen any Mesmer did what I did last time. So be careful when you use your phase smash, come back, try to not stay on your feet. You have to move around. Because I am a scout, right? I'm jittery, I always move around. So I don't like to stay at the same spot. So to prevent them from pulling you whatsoever.
So
once I face
is dodge, right? Dodge back once.
Best is dodge, but sometimes if you don't want to waste a dodge, for example, your dodge is limited. When I fly out, I will straight away turn my camera and move the other direction. If you realize, I don't know if it works for you guys, but if you click on your left and right mouse button at the same time, you will move forward. So that is always how I used to turn my camera and quickly move.
Yeah.
So I fly out and I turn straight away and I move. I don't care, man. So I don't even look back. So remember not to stay at the same spot. So like if we can pull them, they can also pull us.
同埋有時即係大團對撞咧，有時鋪梯咪 hold 同佢哋對打嘅。咁佢用我哋轉咗呢個啦，轉咗雙手武器，但係即係佢 hold 住咗，其實可以轉翻 hammer， 跟住用3號技，咁就可以減少食佢哋一波嘅傷害啦，即係可以當係保命咁用，同埋仲有更大嘅傷害去打佢哋。 咁呢樣就唔可以只單靠，如果 potato 打大團嘅話，淨係單靠雙手劍去打傷害，要轉翻 hammer 去用呢招嘅3號技嚟保命咯。咁呢樣嘢就要注意翻咯。咁佢哋多數就會用死，即係好似對撞咁用死雙手武器去打。
Correct. Okay, so I translate. When Pote clashes, right, sometimes if you realize we stand on our ground and then we fight. Pote wants to hold position. So Hammer 3 is a good way for you to mitigate damage. Because when you're flying, no matter what, you would be in an invulnerable status. So you won't get any damage at all. So that's one way of damage mitigating. So you can just face smash on where we are. So it will help with like survival. One thing also, we also use face smash, right, to trigger the opponent's marks and wells and whatever shit. So if usually I do that, so you guys can hold back your bombs. So usually I use this face smash to trigger whatever they have placed down. Okay, it's very, very good to use it to save your life lah. If you are high level enough next time, or maybe even now, you use that to avoid damage. But you can only avoid so much. When you are using it to purely avoid damage, don't use it for far range. Use it on the floor. So at least when you come back, you will still be in the same position. If you fly out and come back, you still be in the same position. But I like to use it on the floor if I'm avoiding damage.
Okay.
嗯
Any questions?
Revenant 即係要注意嘅，其實都講晒㗎啦。其實即係大概打都係呢幾樣嘢要注意咯。即係技能其實用法都係要睇翻自己嗰個習慣咯。但係習慣就你要即係用某啲技能你唔可以用啦。即係好似例如單手劍嘅3號技啦，咁。其他要講嘅都講晒啦。
Okay, so for Rev is done. Any questions for Rev? Anyone? Any more questions?
No, thanks, guys.
咁
Thanks,
you,
Jason.
Jason.
Thanks, Jason. 唔該晒。